It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if you get Albertans to express the sentiment that they have had enough and that they do want to leave, whether or not that's to become independent or whether it's to join the United States, it's a 51st state, it doesn't matter. Once you get across that threshold, then you'll find out what can happen after that. Maybe it will be a renegotiation of the terms of this country. Yeah. I suspect that's not likely, but it's possible. Maybe they'll have to go the whole way and become independent. Maybe after they do that, they will think about joining the U.S. or not. We are heading into the undiscovered country now. We don't know. But I've been trying to tell people, look, don't worry about looking too far ahead. The problem is the next step. And the next step is for Albertans to try to gather together enough of a critical mass of people and opinion that their future is no longer in the Canada that now exists.
So is this what President Trump wanted all along? The calls for Alberta, Canada's most conservative province, to secede and go independent have skyrocketed since Monday's national election. As many of you know, the ultra-woke Liberal Party won their fourth election in a row in Canada this week. Mark Carney, who makes Tim Walz actually look normal, went on to lead the Liberals to victory on Monday after Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives failed to deliver. And the key here, the key analytical point in all of this with the Conservatives is that the Conservatives themselves, as it turns out, did not underperform. Bottom line, the Conservatives got about the exact vote they were projected to get for months now, even before Trump won back in November, before he imposed his tariffs. What happened is that left-wing voters dumped their third parties, their NDPs, their Green Party, and they turned around and voted for the Liberal Party en masse. So these voters would never have voted Conservative. They're more far left than the Liberal Party, but they abandoned their peripheral third parties and joined up with the Liberals deliberately to box out the Conservatives from power. So they've been doing this again and again over the last 4 election cycles, ever since the Canadian electorate took a very hard turn to the left. And so it seems to me, really, there's no way around this. It seems to me that the Canadian electorate is overwhelmingly leftist. There's a very solid 40% patriot population, like we saw with the Freedom Convoy a couple of years back. No question. There's a very solid patriot population, about 40%. Robert Barnes was pointing this out. The Conservatives did not lose any votes post-Trump tariffs. They got their projected 42%. The problem is that the other 58% appears to be so hardcore leftist that there's just no winning them over at this point. Not at least with a more Romney-like so-called consensus candidate like Pierre Poilievre turned out to be for the Conservatives. So that said, take a look at the Alberta electoral map. Alberta is the all-blue province in the center of the circle. Then remember, blue means conservative in Canadian politics and in European colors. So blue is conservative, red is liberal. But as you can see, Alberta is entirely blue. They're entirely blue. They're not called the Texas of Canada for nothing. So this is why so many Albertans are done with Ottawa. They're increasingly recognizing that particularly the eastern part of the nation has just gone full woke. They've gone radical left, and Albertans are increasingly recognizing that there's just no future for their values in Canada given the current electoral makeup, which only get worse given Canada's radically liberal immigration policies. Here's Jeffrey Rath, an Alberta lawyer who recently led a delegation to D.C. to discuss Alberta becoming the 51st state.
No more federal income tax, no more GST, no more carbon tax, no more excise tax, no more capital gains tax.
Lawyer Jeffrey Rath has traveled to the U.S. to pitch the idea of Alberta as a 51st state, but says separating doesn't necessarily mean needing to join the United States.
There's lots of people that took what I was saying and then put a caption underneath, 51st state, But, when I talk about Alberta statehood, I'm talking about Alberta independence, with a possible merger with the United States.
As you know, our country witnessed a moment we will never forget. We saw a man get shot, stand up, fist in the air in defiance, scream, "Fight! Fight! fight. Now, sadly, too many of us have lost our fight, and that's exactly how the globalists want it. They want us weak. They want us out of shape and full of estrogen and microplastics. This is why we're so excited to partner with Chalk. Chalk offers a whole lineup of products formulated to increase your energy, your focus, detoxify your body, and based on clinical studies, boost your testosterone. In fact, the ingredients in the Chalk Male Vitality Stack have been clinically studied to boost free testosterone, get this, by 87% in just 21 days. Unlike with gimmicky vegetable pills or powder, you're going to feel the difference, and they have the clinical studies to back it up. And right now, you can get 25% off your Chalk subscription for life. You heard that right, for life. Just go to chalk.com, that's spelled CHOQ.com, and use promo code Turley. That's 25% off any subscription for life, and you can cancel anytime. Chalk is made in America, and their all-American customer service team is standing by to assist you. It's time to make men's vitality great again. Get Chalk today. That's CHOQ.com, CHOQ.com, promo code Turley. You can text them or call them at 50-CHOQ-3000. That's 50-CHOQ-3000. Alberta has a long history of regional discontent and periodic surges in separatist sentiment, especially during times of political or economic frustration with the federal government. So as you heard earlier, a new Angus Reid poll from some days back showed that 30% of Albertans wanted to leave the country if the Liberals ended up going on to win their national election, which of course they did. And so it's no coincidence that Albertans just met the threshold of a commitment petition to trigger a referendum vote on independence, and they met that in a single day. The Alberta Prosperity Project has already accumulated over 100,000 signatures on a commitment to vote yes on a referendum for Alberta separation. Now, that 30% is actually huge. That number is highly significant in relation to something called tipping point theory. We've talked about this before, but according to tipping point theory, all you need actually is about 20 to 25% of the population to be made up of dedicated adherents to a cause in order for the population as a whole to start migrating en masse to that cause. So scholars have actually studied how mass populations move away from, say, one, political or cultural paradigm to another. Sometimes it's very opposite. And what they found is you only need about 20 to 25% of the population to initially move in that direction in order to create a tipping point where a new majority arises. So if 30% of Albertans really are serious about this, about seceding from Ottawa, all bets are off. That according to tipping point theory. I wouldn't give this the time of day if it were 5% or 10% or 15%. I mean, forget about it. It's too fringe. But when you start seeing results showing 20, 25, 30% of the population consistently ready to vote yes on an independence referendum, you don't need that many more to secure a majority. And it looks like that's precisely what's happening as we speak. Now, what if this were what President Trump envisioned the whole time with this 51st state rhetoric? Perhaps it wasn't the whole of Canada. That would be California on steroids in terms of leftism. Perhaps it was Alberta. Did he want Alberta particularly to become the 51st state, a new Texas, as it were? Alberta is, after all, the king of Canadian provinces when it comes to natural resources and production. Alberta is by far the largest producer of conventional crude oil, synthetic crude, natural gas, and gas products in Canada, accounting for about 80% of the country's crude oil and 67% of its natural gas production. The province is home to Athabasca Oil Sands, which contains the world's largest proven oil reserves outside of Saudi Arabia. Alberta is also the world's second largest exporter of natural gas and fourth largest producer globally. If Alberta and Texas combined, we would be far and away the unchallenged energy powerhouse on the planet. Albertan energy accounts for the vast majority of Canada's exports and their trade surplus with the United States. Alberta's per capita GDP has consistently been the highest in Canada. In 2013, Alberta's per capita GDP was 56% higher than the national average. Albertans have the lowest personal taxes in Canada and no provincial sales tax. Were they to join the United States, it would be like welcoming home a long-lost brother. So we'll have to see how things develop, no question. But there is no question that while much of the rest of Canada has decided to double down on societal suicide, more and more Albertans appear to be concluding that the state of their flourishing future may indeed involve becoming the 51st state. Hey there, Turley Talker. You know what? I'd love to hear from you. That's why I'm launching the Dr. Steve Hotline, where you can call in, leave a question, and maybe even hear your own voice featured on an upcoming episode of the show. Whether it's about the latest political shakeup or cultural trends or how we keep pushing forward in this new conservative age, I want to know what's on your mind. Call me at 717-844-5984. Just leave your question. I'll be checking in every single week to answer as many as I can. Again, that's 717-844-5984. Your chance to be a part of the conversation. One more time, 717-844-5984. Give me a call and let's talk.